Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to what is this, episode 22 of Over the Head Podcast. I am your host, Scott Ratliff, and today's going to be interesting. So, this is going to be a disaster of an episode if you are a Scott Ratliff hater, if you don't like my takes or my point of view or my voice, because this is a solo episode. So unfortunately, my co-host Kyle Hartzell is going through a tough time. He had to put down his dog like just now, Harper. He's got two dogs. For anybody who doesn't know, Hartsey is I think I'm the biggest dog lover on earth. I would say when I die on like my gravestone, it could say Scott was a great father, husband, son, brother, and he loved dogs, and I would be happy. And Kyle might exceed that, and he is truly the best dog dad I think I've ever seen. Those dogs eat healthier than I eat, and he's such a he's such a good caretaker of his pups. And Harper was getting old and has had some health battles, and so anyway, a little late on the episode this week as he's been kind of dealing with that, and ultimately like just couldn't make it work. He's had to go do that, so I am on here, and I am prepared to go alone. And this is either going to go one of two ways. I might win a Tony for the greatest one-man play performance in the history of, I don't know, what, entertainment. Or this could just be an absolute disaster and everybody hates listening to it. And yeah, either way, I'm carrying on with my life and we'll be fine. So what are we going to talk about? Plenty to talk about. I've got some stuff to get off my chest. Actually, this might be therapeutic. I needed this. I have some things I want to say. And I don't really need any feedback on it because it's just my point of view. So we're going to get into, of course, like I'll recap the Baltimore weekend. We'll talk about those games. Interesting weekend. A lot to talk about there. Paul Rabel was in Cannes. That seemed to be like a buzz in the lacrosse world. I think a lot of people didn't like that he was like hanging out with A-Rod and going to a music festival when like game weekend's happening and the crowd's not that great at Hopkins. Like that seemed to be a story. So I'll give my take. I've got a take on Paul and on that and kind of that perspective that seems to be out there. I think both amongst players and amongst fans who just love to throw shade on Paul. So we'll get into that. ESPN, big announcement. Wonder if he negotiated that in Canes. I don't know. But its implications, what that means for the PLL, they extend their deal with ESPN. And kind of interesting. ESPN, I think, also becomes like a super minority investor in the league, takes some equity. We'll talk about that. And then also I'll preview. I want to talk about the face-off a little bit, and I'll preview next week's matchup. So with all that, let's dive in. And so I want to start with Paul, okay, in Canes Con. Somebody has to let me know how to pronounce that correctly. Here's my take on this. I have come to find that in and around pro lacrosse, there is a culture of complaining. And I am a part of this culture. I think most players in general are a part of this culture, and in a lot of ways we like lead it. And then fans and people who do like really follow pro lacrosse and even casual pro lacrosse fans, they like jump in to complaining about everything with pro lacrosse. If it's the rules, if it's what the media team's doing, if it's RJ, if it's Paul and Can, if it's like all of this stuff, there's always something to complain about. And it just seems like it's like embedded in the pro lacrosse culture, like just complain. And frankly, that's what created the PLL. There was so much to complain about in the MLL. It's not run well. They don't do a good job with media. They don't pay the players shit. They have no plan for growth. The commissioner's an idiot. Like it was just complain. And a lot of it was warranted. Only two people since the MLL started, only two people have done something about it, have done more than just complain about pro lacrosse. Those two people are Paul and Mike Rabel. They're the only two people who took the step from complain about all the shit that's wrong with pro lacrosse and actually attempt to do something about it and change it and make it better and, address some of the complaints. There are tactical things in how like the PLL has evolved or even how it's running this year that we could talk about, right? Like, do they invest overly heavy into media and not enough into like game day ops or ticket sales, right? Like that's a tactical conversation that could be argued about. To me would be like a valid, it's not a complaint, but maybe a conversation. Would they be better suited? And I think you hear this one from the players, like putting more into player experience and making game day ops and just making things run a little bit more smoothly. Like, sure, I think we could have that conversation. But just like when I see like the lacrosse Twitter sphere going off on, ticket sales are down. There was some tweet going around about like TV viewership is down, and then like Paul's all over ESPN with the new show, and he's in Con, whatever, with A Rod. I feel like it his only sin there is it creates this perception like he's killing it and he's making millions of dollars and he's just like, fuck it, the PLL's fine, like, and it's the Paul Rabel show. And it's just not the case, right? Like, it's just not true. Paul being in Baltimore on Saturday was not going to make 20,000 more people show up in the stands and be there. Like, he's built the infrastructure and the league is running. And let me take this further. I think people have a misconstrued notion. I think players, especially, but broadly, like passionate fans, of how big and profitable the Premier Lacrosse League is. Pro lacrosse is not a big business. It's not frankly, it's proven so far to not be a very good business. The PLL is doing everything right and trying to change that. But the NLL they sell out arenas in Buffalo. Sell out arenas. 30,000 people. They do it in Denver when that team's in the playoffs, and they put a lot of butts and seats in those Canadian markets. In Toronto, definitely up in Sask. And their maximum player salary is, I believe, lower than the minimum of PLL. So if you're like a player or a fan who's like, well, the players should be getting more, and Paul's doing all this shit and flying on private jets, my point of view, the players are probably overpaid, if anything. Now, I want the players to get paid more, and I think it's the right decision for long-term growth to invest in the players. If you're gonna overspend anywhere, overspend there, invest in the players, better product, and that's gonna fuel growth ultimately. So I'm not sitting here saying they should take a pay cut. I'm just saying if that's your perspective, that they're underpaid and that money is going to like Paul traveling to Canada. Like, first off, it's not like that's not how this works. He's his own entity with his own kind of celebrity, and the growth of his celebrity, it helps the PLL. It brings more eyes, it brings more attention, it brings more media. Like, him being there is a good thing for the PLL, in my opinion. I just think that because the PLL does such a good job of portraying their success, because Paul can get spots on SportsCenter and he rubs shoulders with celebrities, and like they've done a great job of creating this image, which is what they need to do, of being this super legitimate league. It almost hurts them in like the inner circle of players and close fans and media who get all salty about, players still not being quite at full-time wages, and they're spending money on a private jet for that to Wharton, but like they're not, whatever. They're not creating a new generation of stars, or like whatever it is you want to say. It's like the only mistake they've made is that they're really good at the media. But I don't know. I don't have an under the hood of the business, but I'd be willing to bet it's probably not profitable yet. They're probably burning more money than anywhere else on player salaries. And I just think complaining about it and scapegoating Paul every time there's something that it's just so tired to me. It's so tired. Now, there's other conversations, and I'll jump into it, on things that I do think you can give him some shit for. The ESPN show is a little corny. You want to talk about that? Like, great. That's warranted. It is a little corny. I agree. Fine. But criticizing like what he's built and how the league is running and operating, it's just like, to me, you're too short of a memory, because it's still so far above and beyond where we were with the MLL, and pay is still so much significantly higher than what it was with the MLL. and what it is in other examples of professional lacrosse, that I think it just like people just want to find a reason to hate on him. And this was maybe another example of that being the case. And the last thing I'll say on this, like, first off, I do believe in the sport's long-term growth, like, but I don't think it's a good business right now. If you go talking to an investor and whatever, like, I think most of the time you're going to get an opinion that like there's a lot of other businesses you're going to put money in first if you're really trying to make money than pro lacrosse. I know we have great youth numbers, and the growth of the sport in general is super attractive, and I think that's why we get investment. But like, I'd make the argument, look at swimming. You ever watch pro swimming? Every fucking kid in America does swim team at some point. It doesn't just because lots of kids play it doesn't make the professional version of it necessarily a great investment that racks in tons of money. And if you feel that way, if you feel like Paul's getting rich and everything else is going to shit, first off, you're an idiot. Secondly, it's just not true. Look at the stands. They're not full. The TV numbers are down a little bit. I still think, I think that's a little bit of fool's gold. Like, the TV numbers are down, but it's these days, look across media, look what they do on social, on YouTube. Like, that one doesn't concern me as much. The butts in the seats is the one that concerns me. Like, that's the thing they got to figure out, I think, to take the next step. And they will. And the media efforts and the investment into media and Paul being out there and on stuff, and like, it's only going to help get butts in seats, which ultimately leads to better investment and, more money in players' pockets, and like the things that we all want. So that's my end of the rant there. That, I think, that ties into, they announced, right, the ESPN deal. So I don't have it in front of me, but 3 or 4 years more of ESPN owning the rights. And what's interesting is it said that ESPN is becoming an investor in the league. Now, I think if you read the fine print, it's like a very small investor, but that's great. Like, ESPN is where it needs to live. That's where you have the tie-in with college lacrosse, and we talked about this with Kark. You get the carryover with the same broadcasters in Kark and Quint, and like kind of the biggest names in lacrosse media are all at ESPN. So that perfectly aligns. The production quality, which Hartsey and I have spent a ton of time on here talking about how important that is. It's fantastic. I love turning on games on ESPN Plus. There's a lot of good shit on ESPN Plus. Like, most people have a subscription to it already, so that's a huge win. And to me, it seems like a savvy business deal. I don't know how the economics of those TV deals work, but I know that if you're a startup company and you're pre-profit, like the PLL likely is, you're a venture-backed business, equity is one of the most valuable things you have. So if you're trying to make sure you stay on ESPN's platform and they're going to invest in you, like, that's a great bargaining chip to say, hey, be partners with us, right? Continue to give us spots on your network because you now have a long-term connection to our success, and you have a chance to make a bunch of money off our league success. That's only going to motivate ESPN to invest more in getting eyes onto the PLL. And that matters when you get on ESPN Plus, having the PLL up towards the front of the options to click on, getting those spots on ESPN shows that might introduce people to it that, aren't watching it. It matters. So like, I thought it was funny how I had like heard from different people like bitching about player salaries, and maybe like operationally the league's back a little bit this year, taking a step back, and maybe like the crowds are taking a step back, and Paul's, fucking hanging out in France with A-Rod. Like, what the fuck's going on? Like, I'd heard that kind of, and then it's like, boom, on Monday, ESPN deals announced, and they announced that player salaries are going to go up. And again, I want to be very clear. I do think when you look at other pro lacrosse, the PLL is the best place to get paid to play pro lacrosse. Like, the NLL season's way longer, demands more of those guys, and they get paid less, and they put more butts in seats. So I just don't think it's like you have a ton of ground to stand on to criticize Paul and Mike and the PLL's approach to paying players. Like, I think they've done everything they can within reason to push this thing forward. And I think it's important for people who love lacrosse and love pro lacrosse to rally. Like, you can't treat it like it's the NFL now and bitch at Goodell all the time. Like, it's going to take time, and it's going to take sweat equity from this generation of players, just like it did from every generation of pro players before, to actually get this thing to a point where you're paying, $100,000 plus a year to these guys. And guys live in market, and like at that point everything changes. They're not there yet, and you can see like the only reason they're anywhere fucking close to it is because of Paul and Mike and what they've built, and then all the guys, all the players, and all the people who, ops, everything, all the people who invested in making this better, and it is better. So okay, that's it. End of my rant there. ESPN deal. Paul's in France. I'm sure he's back now. I got one more thing to get off my chest before I get into talking about these games, and this pertains to the games. So now let me criticize Paul and Mike and the league, Seth, Rachel, all of the people in charge of when you watch the games. One of the things I love that they've gotten so right is the reffing. I love PLL rules. It's up and down. I don't have a ton of problem with 2-point arc's great. The pace and the field size is great. I love that the refs have like enough leeway in the rule book to just get shit right. They review it. You see this in other sports where it's like you can watch a review and something was missed, but they can't call it because that's not reviewable and this is. The PLL generally doesn't have that. Like they go over to the screen and they come out and they make the call, and they make the call correctly based on what you saw on the replay. So they do a really good job of that. But the one thing I fucking hate is the 32-second shot clock off the face-off. It is conducive to bad offense. And there is no such thing as an efficient offense in lacrosse with a 20-second shot clock. And most of the time, that's what they're playing with. By the time you win a face-off and you get settled and you're actually starting an offense, then this is assuming you didn't have to win back. This is assuming you won clean and you get settled and you're actually starting an offense. You're around 20 seconds, 25 seconds at absolute best. You just can't be efficient. You can't run good offense. And I know, like, I'm sure that they would call me and they'll point me to statistics about the Archers last year and the Atlas last year and how good they were in the 32. I would argue that's a little bit of a one-off. Like, they had great seasons or whatever. Like, guys got hot shooting or for whatever reason that happened. But when the eye test tells me that offenses are shitty in the 32-second shot clock. And to me, that incentivizes losing faceoffs, which is just a weird thing to have in your game. Like when I watched the games this weekend, I thought it was very obvious in Cannon's Whip Snakes with Nards dominating faceoffs and the Whip Snakes offense never finding any rhythm. Okay. I also think it's been pretty obvious in some of the Archers games this year with Sis. Like the best thing that can happen to you if you're a PLL team at the faceoff X is you force the other guy to win backwards. If he wins backwards and you force them to use their goalie or use their defense and then clear, they're literally not going to start offense till there's 8 seconds left. You're going to get an alley dodge and a shitty shot or throw the ball in the corner, and that's it. That's the possession. The thing that may not be as obvious to this in the way I think it impacts the game. One, goalie rhythm. If I'm Colin Kirst or whoever, and the shots that I'm seeing are rushed, single dodger, 8-9 seconds into possession. I haven't had to move around and track the ball from X to up top, from X to up top and right to left. But it's just instead, it's like, well, they finally cleared. There's 16 seconds left. It's a pass around, a dodge, and a shot. And it's a shot save. All of a sudden, you're playing your goalie into rhythm. Your goalie's going to have a better game because he's seeing better shots and he's getting into a rhythm because he's getting these short possessions early in shot clocks. 2 is the lack of offensive rhythm. So, like, you could argue, well, even if you win it and you get a shitty shot, whatever, the ball goes the other way, it comes back, it's 52, you're still trading 1 for 1 possession, you just got an extra half possession. But you're not, like, it fucks with your flow. It fucks with the flow of the offense when a guy is kind of forced to take a shitty shot and now, like, there's seeds of doubt planted. Is it my day? Is it like, and I just think it fucks with the rhythm of the team that's winning more faceoffs. And it's not every game. There's outlier games and there's games where guys play great and you win some forward. You cannot convince me that if I'm coaching that, like, the Cannons right now don't have the best faceoff strategy. I mean, Tucci's like he might be the worst clamper of any of the guys in the league. But when he does win one, it's always forward. He swipes, and if he wins it forward, and he scores. He's hit a 2, he's hit a 1. So like you get the he might go 35% from the X, but he goes 35% with a point or 2 points, balances it out to me. And I actually like that we're losing more than we're winning. And he's athletic, so he's able to lose. He's not, he doesn't give up a lot of pinch and pop win forward. He makes it like win back, make the face-off guy win to themselves, and then operate in, the 32. And I think that ultimately benefits the team. So I think they got to fix that. I just like just do 52. Like, what was wrong with that? And the reason they went to that, at least how I understand it, is because they're trying to incentivize, like, get rid of the idea of a FOGO, which on a whole separate topic, it annoys the shit out of me how Quint calls them FOGOs on broadcast. Like, just call them face-off guys. Like, it's just such a laxy term that I just don't fucking like. But anyway, that just doesn't work. Like, they're trying to say, well, make Trevor and Joe into offensive middies. Like, they're not offensive middies. They're face-off guys who can play offense, but like if you're playing a 6-on-6 competition, you wouldn't put those guys out there. So it's just like, and then so what are you're going to completely eliminate the position, and those are some of your biggest stars. Trevor Baptiste was MVP of the league. He's not. He might be MVP of the league. He's not good enough to be a starting first or second line offensive midi on any fucking team. He's not good enough at offense for that. If he was, he'd be playing that position. He wouldn't be facing off. Like, it's just, and that's not a hate on Trevor. He's really good in transition. He's super skilled. Like, he's athletic enough. He's good enough at lacrosse to be out there, but he's a face-off guy. That's what like makes him great, is his ability to scrap for those balls at the X and be opportunistic in transition and be intelligent on when it's time to just save and give our guys a possession. It's a great part of the game, and they're doing too much, like trying to manipulate that and take it back to how it was. Like, I really don't like it. Just put on the 52 fucking shot clock. Like, even if you want to keep poles out of it, that's the other rule they've changed, is poles can't face off. And that idea was, now teams won't just make the face off guy and shut everybody else off and have the pole. Whatever. Okay, but make it 52, because even if your face off guy wins clean to himself and runs down, you don't have the right personnel. You're still probably subbing an LSM at least off the field. And if you're saying, well, no, we're trying to create more two-way players, it's not as fun to watch offense. It's not as fun to watch offense when it's Trevor Baptiste and Tyler Carpenter and 4 offensive guys as it is to watch 6 great offensive players go against 6 great defensive players. Like, it's just not, it's not as pleasing to the eye. It's ugly lacrosse. The first possession after faceoffs is ugly lacrosse. So they've been great. They experiment. They change things. They fix things. This is one I hope they change back and get right. Like, good try, good idea. Kind of actually a shitty idea, but whatever. You tried it. Just keep the fucking shot clock normal. It's also just confusing to explain to people that don't, like, it's 32 here, but it's 52 there. Doesn't make any fucking sense. It bugs the shit out of me, and I think it makes the watching experience worse because of the inefficiency and the shitty offense. Lacrosse offense isn't hoops. You need to work offense to get great shots. You don't have time. 52, you have time. It's fast, but you have time. 32, like, that's where the gap in there is, like, I think it's at like 43, 45. So what are we doing? Just do 52. Like, that's the number. It's a good number. We like that number. Go with it. All right. So how's my pacing? I don't have any feedback loop here. It feels like I'm doing okay, but would have no way of knowing. Let's get into the games. Let's talk some games. That felt good. That was as cathartic as I expected it to be, to just get some of that stuff off my chest. And I think my opinion on that is not it. Maybe on the 32 it's popular. I bet my Paul PLL opinion's less popular. Don't give a fuck. I'm glad I said it. And frankly, I think some of the players are the ones that need to hear it. Anyway, first game of the weekend, the Jeff Teat game. Talking about Baltimore weekend, looking at last weekend, the New York Atlas beat the Philadelphia Water Dogs 17-9. Finally, Jeff Teat arrives. I don't have the stats. He had 5 and 2 or something like that. He had a big day. He was all over the place, super involved, and it looked like the Atlas we're used to seeing. A couple things that stood out to me. So one, Pressler made some tough decisions. I have been a big proponent. Pound sign rap continues to be right. Going young is often the answer. I love myself some Miles Jones. Great dude. Kyle Jackson's done a lot in the league. He takes those two guys out, kind of gives the keys to the younger midfielders. Bowering goes in and does a lot with Pete over on the left side. Like when I watch that team, like Costabile had a great game, deserves a ton of credit. I think like Matt Trainer looks like a star to me in this league and a dynamic midfielder. And I think just giving him more touches and more possessions, that seemed to spark them a little bit. So I would expect to see them continue to go young with their offense. And Pete just looked to be a little more aggressive, looking for his. He always lets the game come to him so much, but he seemed to be a little more intent on leaving an imprint. And then the last thing I'll say about the Atlas is like Entenmann, he just looks really fucking good. I haven't been overly impressed with the Atlas defense this year. Like it's like on paper, it's this great group, but it's been dicey a little bit at times. They played great, and like if he's playing lights out, we've seen it across the league. Goalies can dominate games, and he seems to be one of those guys. Not seems to be, he is one of those guys that can do it. So when he plays like that, and Teet's active, and they seem to find the right mix on offense, like now you're all of a sudden right back to being like, okay, the Atlas look like legitimate championship contenders. Now, on the other side of that game, the Philadelphia Water Dogs, who start 2-0, and I was like ready to crown. I was like, I don't know how anybody fucking stops this team. Their offense just looks so dynamic with all of these hybrid indoor-outdoor middies that we've talked about, and then McCardle and Sowers obviously doing their thing, and then Jake Taylor seemed to plug in so well. Like new faces on defense, they're winning some faceoffs. Like they really had seemed to get it. And what bugs me about this game for them, and frankly the last two games since they beat the Cannons, you kind of gave them a pass in the second game last weekend because it was a back-to-back and maybe they just didn't have the juice. They didn't have the juice again in this one. And they don't have elite goaltending the way that these other teams do. You never know with Dylan Ward. Like, could he be that in the playoffs? It wouldn't shock me at all. But he's definitely, obviously, he's got a lot of miles on him playing in both leagues. He's older. They've been going with DeLuca. He has not shown the cursed Entenmann, Dobson level, right? Reardon level. So I'm not sure that defensively they're good enough for their offense to not be playing with a ton of juice. And you saw some similarities in the game plan in that Outlaws game, the second game last weekend, and what the Atlas did. And what Adler does on Sowers and what JT Giles Harris does on Sowers is what every team's going to now start doing on Sowers, which is pressing the fuck out. And they take the ball out of his stick 3, 4, 5, 6 extra times a game by not letting him just go catch it when they're just moving the ball through X. When you watch this game, the ball goes down the side in transition. The Atlas or the Water Dogs clear. They'll throw it down the side to Taylor or McCardle typically. And then when they turn and go to throw it to X, Adler's pressed out. The ball is not going to Sour's stick right here, right now. So then all of a sudden the ball stays back up top. Now your defense isn't turning and the offense can't. These middies just are, they're dodging in tougher scenarios. They're dodging with slides prepared, and the offense has not been as effective. And you don't like so everything on that offense goes through Sowers, and they've got to figure that out. I mean, like if I were coaching my high school team, I'd be like, hey, if the ball goes down the side, and I know they want to get into offense quick, but like if you go to throw it to X and he's shut, run at him. Let him come set a pick, see if we get an easy switch. If you run at him and he picks and you come off the pick and he turns and pops real quick, you can get him the ball right away then. Like it's kind of like watching NBA and like the Pacers with Shea trying to keep the ball from him. Like you just got to work a little harder, but you can still get the ball. And he hasn't, to me, worked hard enough to get the ball. And I think he's been kind of almost unselfish in saying, well, let me go to the crease. They're shutting me, put my guy in a slide situation. Sowers needs to be the guy initiating. You got to be dodging with him. He's just so fucking good at it. He's so good at drawing slides and passing or scoring the ball if you don't slide. Like it doesn't matter who's covering him at all. He needs to be dodging on everybody. He needs to get the ball on his stick, and then you run picks to him. That's what's worked over and over and over again. So I'd be if I'm that offense coordinator, I would just be imploring, like, we have to just work harder to get to the things that we want to do. It can't be this easy to take away the things that we want to do with our offense. We've got to get it to Sowers. We got to get it to him early in shot clocks. Let's run picks back to him. Let's let him initiate. And then after he's initiated and the defense is all looking behind and trying to deal with that shit, now the ball goes up to our middies. And now their outside step down shooting works. Now their cutting and finishing ability inside with him as the dodger gets unlocked. Now when they catch and they're dodging approaches, right? Instead of having to catch the ball up top and your D middies meeting you 5 yards above the arc and running with you, which, Connor Kelly and Hannah aren't necessarily like the athletes that just blow by people. What they're really good at is catching the ball, stepping in like they're going to be a shooter, having a D midi who was worried about Sowers and was sloughing in to help, now running out at them, and now they can shoot through them. They can hitch and go around him. They can face dodge and go underneath. Like, that's where that hybrid Canadian-American box outdoor style really is effective. And that's, to me, what's been taken away. Sowers is shut. Okay, initiate with the middies. Now the middies are just dodging athlete on athlete, and I don't know that they don't have the advantage there the same way. So I'd expect them to recognize that. I'd expect Sowers to work a little harder to get the ball and not just have to wait to pick it up off the end line. It also wouldn't shock me. I know Kurse is coming back. That should help spark them a little bit. And I wonder if we don't see Sowers run out of the box some. They did this 2 years ago. If he's just going to get shut, that's a great way to take that away. Run him out of the box. Now, are you going to have Adler wait all the way up at the box? Like, that's not usually a winning formula. You're playing 5-on-5. It opens up a ton of space. Something like that. And I'll talk about it. We've seen it with other teams, but I'd like to see something like that. Just get creative to get him the ball back in good positions. I wouldn't be in panic mode. Like, to me, this is a 2-1 team playing a 1-2 team. The team that needed it more kind of won. You see that a lot in this league, that the team needs it more wins. But that's 2 straight games where the Water Dogs have done the same thing, and other teams have adjusted to them, and it's not working. So now it's kind of their turn to adjust and do something different. I guess we might see Kurse this weekend. I'm not sure, but he may unlock them. But make no mistake, they need to be the best offense in the league. Of all the teams, to me, that are true title contenders, they're the weakest on defense and in the cage. I don't think they're terrible there. I think they've got some good young players, but they're not like proven championship on that side of the field. So they need to win the 15, 16 games like they did in their championship against the Archers. Like, that's their model. So 9 is not going to get it done. A simple shut on Sowers or a press out on Sowers, like, that's too easy. You can't let that be the adjustment that is the downfall of your season, and I don't expect they will. So we'll carry on. Second game, Boston Cannons 13, Maryland Whipsnakes 12. Whipsnakes make a late push. This game was really never that close. This was the closest it was 13-12 right at the very end. I'm going to talk about the Whipsnakes more in my last breakdown when I talk about the chaos. The Cannons are just gritty. Like, I kept using the phrase when I was watching this game, talking to Hartsey about it, like, workman-like. Like, nothing was sexy about it at all. Like, they don't wow you really offensively. They don't, but they just wear you down, and they're so mentally tough and resilient. And they just kind of, when shit doesn't go their way, they just kind of take it in stride. And then you look up and they're up 12-8 late in the game. And like, you're like, oh shit, they're going to win, and they're probably going to win comfortably. And here they are now at the top of the league, right? You're only 3-1 team, I believe. And nobody's really like, you don't have an MVP candidate on that team. I don't even know that. I mean, Asher still probably jumps out as the best player. His assist numbers are through the roof. And I think Kurse, you could make an argument, although statistically he hasn't been as impressive the last few games, but like, it's less obvious with them, but that's kind of their magic. I think that's the culture that Brian Holman set out to build there. And they're back to kind of feeling like an underdog that's like proving themselves every week. And that's when they're at their best. So I thought this was a great example of this. I think tactically, an interesting breakdown in this game. We saw this with the chaos in the playoffs last year. The way that you're going to beat the Cannons offense, I just talked about strategy with Sowers, is you shut fucking Marcus off and just say, he's not scoring. We're not going to slide off you. We're just going to more or less face guard you and take you out of the game. And then you press Asher. And if there's a criticism on Asher, it's like same thing I'm talking about, like working for the ball, sprinting around off ball. Like a lot of times, if you press him, he just sits back there at X and he doesn't get the ball and he's not involved in the offense. And then you've taken Asher and Marcus out of their offense, and you basically make a bet that without those two guys having big days, they're only a 8-goal offense. That's what the Whip Snakes tried to do. And the Cannons middies won their matchup and scored all game long. And I think one thing to call out is it's a deficiency of the whips. I don't know that they have the D midi play. I think they're good, but Jake Bernhardt in space 1-on-1 with no slide at this stage in his career, like that's not a great matchup, right? And he's very good off ball. He's a leader. He's all these other things, but covering in space as a short stick, there's not a ton of D middies. I think the Archers have a couple of those guys. I think the Outlaws have a guy or two that can do that, but there's not a ton of those guys in the league, and I don't think they're on the Whip Snakes. But I think it says more about the Cannons. Like this rookie, Mick Kelly, he kind of reminds me of a Water Dogs midi. He's Canadian. I think he's Canadian, or I don't know, maybe he's not, but maybe he's not. I don't fucking know where he's from, but he kind of plays like one. He's got this indoor outdoor kind of style to him a little bit, and he's just big. And it's like if he's got a shorty in space, you feel like he's very dangerous at all times. Ryan Drenner's Ryan Drenner's been doing this shit for 8 years. Like the guy's just so fucking good at lacrosse. It doesn't matter. Attack midi, it doesn't really matter. He's so smooth, both hands. He's having a great season. And then Matt Campbell is Matt Campbell, who's I think one of the best middies in the league statistically. He hasn't popped this year, but he's going to. And he hit a 2 in this game. Like the midfield just had a really big day. We see Kirst finally kind of get involved offensively and have a big day. And he's playing both ways and doing so much for this team. So if they're doing this, if their first line midfield is producing like this, whoever they land on, I mean, it seems like definitely Drenner and Campbell. And then if it's Kirst or if it's Kelly as kind of the other guy, they're hard to stop, and if you don't play that way and you get back into more of a traditional defense and a support defense to those guys, that means Marcus Holman's getting step downs or, Asher Nolting's not getting pressed at X. I mean, he even still found a way to have 5 fucking assists in this game. He's still just so smooth and so good at throws such a catchable ball. He might throw the most catchable ball in the PLL. Like the guys I watch where I see it, where I'm like, they just don't throw it very. There's a lot of great passers, but the guys that it's almost like they're gentle, like they're throwing it to their 8-year-old son, like here, buddy, catch, and they just ease it in. Asher does that extremely well. Rob Pennell does that extremely well, where the ball, and then Michael Sowers does that extremely well, where they could be running fast or leading or playing with a lot of physicality, and then they still just throw this nice, soft, gentle pass and put it right in the right spot. And he just does that, and he just seems to make all the right decisions. So kind of a quiet 1-5 from him in that game. You don't love the way they close it, but whatever. They walk out with a win. They're 3-1, and they've won in a lot of different ways, which is always a good sign. And again, Kelly, the emergence of a young midfielder like that. You win a game and Marcus doesn't have any points on that offense. I think ultimately you kind of take that if you're the Cannon. So impressed with them. They look like a contender and they're a first place team. So the next game, whew. All right. The next game, Utah Archers 10, Denver Outlaws 13. So this is the Jared Bernhardt game. And nobody's been harder on the Outlaws than me. The Outlaws are now on a 2-game winning streak. The Outlaws now look like they've unlocked some stuff on their offense. They look like they're getting better play in the goal and from their defense, and all of a sudden they're a little bit scary, for sure. Jared Bernhardt looks very good. And Hartzell and I said this after the first game, he hadn't had a game yet where he popped on points, but when you watch, he pops. He's running by guys. He's winning matchups. He can dodge from any part of the field. I saw his interview after with RJ. I'm like, he's all business, and he's a problem. So what I loved about what they did was they switched off him and O'Neal. He played at midfield some. O'Neal played at attack, and then they switched. The more I watch, the more I like teams that have that versatility and can do that because it just changes your defense. Who's covering who? Your matchup's Brendan O'Neal. Now it's Jared Bernhardt. Couldn't be two different players. Couldn't be two more different players. There you go. And that's hard defensively. You're guarding a lefty, big, heavy guy. Now you're covering a righty, or you're switching around matchups and you're not sure where guys are. Like, I just think it creates some confusion and it gives you flexibility to see what's working today. And we can find, different ways to score. Pat Cavanaugh still, like, he's coming around. He's more active. He had a big game last week and in the win over the Water Dogs. And I thought he was good again in this game. So it just feels like it's starting to click. I expected it with Sudo. I have a ton of respect for him as a coach. It feels like he's finding the right buttons to press, and he would probably say, I have no idea what he would say, but like me freaking out 2 weeks into the season saying we got to fucking change something. It's like, relax. Like, I think as I've talked to some of these coaches, I think a lot of them use the All-Star break as kind of like, look, you're going to experiment for the first half of the season. We have 1 week of training camp. We hardly get to practice. Like, you gotta look at guys. You gotta try different guys in different places. You gotta look at some things. And then I think you'll start to see teams lock into who they are after the All-Star break. I think it's going to be 1 more week of kind of seeing some mix and match and like still some exploring with who we are. And then I think you'll go into the All-Star break and you'll come out of that with like teams know who they are and know their rotations, know their lineups. And now we're in like playoff push mode. That's what I would expect. And I think that's what the Outlaws were doing and have done. And they've done it well. And that's a big win. On the other side, my Utah Archers, they just can't figure it out. Offensively, they just haven't been good all season. And the thing that stands out the most when you watch them on offense is it's just like sloppy. Like it just, Coach Bates used to always say, earn your skips. That was kind of his version of the old whip snakes, like hit singles, like earn your skips, throw enough adjacent passes, to get that defense not playing skip lanes before you start chucking the ball through the defense. And what makes them great is what at times makes them a little vulnerable, which is like you have Grant, Tom, Fields, who are all kind of like high risk, maybe Tom the least of those type of players, but he's guilty of it too. And they're just not connecting right now. Like they're pissing the ball away way too much. They're not shooting at a very high percentage. Like, Mac O'Keefe's been almost like invisible this year. I mean, in the first half of this game, it was like, there's O'Keefe goal. Oh, Ambler gets a goal off of a 2-man game. Like Tom gets one. Like you're just like, oh, here they are. And then the second half, nothing. And they're getting enough from their defense and their goaltending to be winning games. That's the crazy part, is like, you think of this, this little Archers mini dynasty we've had these last 2 years, and it's like they've had the most explosive offense in the league with an all-star injured constantly. And now they're all healthy and it's just not there. So like, how long does you can see Coach Bates, how frustrated he is with his offense. How long does he wait till he kind of tries to change something up? And I don't know what that is. Is it, I think I saw Grant down at attack. Like, is it Matt Moore comes back up? I think one thing, and like Sam King continues to make plays, but like, he's not the guy yet on that offense. Like, you can't really point at him. Like, I think not having Trey LeClaire hurts. Talk about this I could go back to the Cannons with part of what I love about Mick Kelly is his size. And one of the places that size matters is setting picks. And one of the things that I think Trey LeClaire brings to that Archers offense is he's a great screen setter for Tom. Tom comes out of the box and gets the ball. He's got the pole. Trey generally has a shorty. Okay, Trey sets a pick for Tom. Tom sweeps off it. Either you throw back to Trey, just like I was talking about the Water Dogs midfield. You have a guy now who can stretch the field from 2. If both guys go with Tom, it's a throwback, it's a step down, or it's a dodge on an approach. If they misplay the pick, now Tom's running off it. He obviously can score, or the defense is staring at him. He can feed. It feels like that's missing, and it makes a difference having a 6'4" jacked dude like Trey, or like mix a big body like that on the Cannons. Like, they're great pick setters, those guys, and that's not it's not the whole thing with their offense, but that is clearly, like, I think we're seeing a really important piece that maybe unlocks some of the other stuff they do matchup wise. Like, even it's like, okay, if you have Grant, Tom, and Trey, if we're double polling, we're probably double polling to Grant. If we're not double polling, like, my best D midi, my number one, my Danny Logan's probably going to Grant. And now Trey, who's my best picker, is using the second, the lowest on the depth chart D midi, or the O midi who got stuck on D, is now the one who has to deal with the pick game with Tom. Like, these little things sometimes in these 1-goal games or 2-goal games, and this was obviously a 3-goal game, but that we see so often in the PLL, like, sometimes it's something as simple as that can make the difference and unlock them, but like, they are not unlocked. So they're probably in the overreaction seat now. Like, how big of a cause for concern is this? Like, I still generally trust them because I think their defense is really fucking good. I think Dobson's really good, and I trust Fields and Tom to figure it out. Like, McAfee not having a great season worries me a little bit. Like, what's going on there? Grant's body language, like, not great at times. Always, to me, feels a little frustrated with his role or something. But winning always heals a lot of those things, and they're not winning. So this is gonna be a big week for. Are they playing? Yeah, they play the Atlas this week. That's a big game, and if you're the Archers and you lose that, like, you now might be in a position going into the All-Star break where it's like, okay, what are we going to do differently? Or maybe Trey Leclerc gets healthy and it's like, no problem. So we'll wait and see on that. So last game, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this one. Carolina Chaos against the Maryland Whipsnakes. I think it was 20-6. It was a fucking beatdown. The Chaos are a mess. Sad for Blaze. He didn't have a great game. The defense didn't have a great game, but like, they can't do shit on offense. They their offense is fucking terrible. So I don't know if it's like all those Canadians are gone and they like that hurts. Josh Burns, your best offensive player, you find out, in the offseason that he's not coming back. But I don't no excuses. The Redwoods that, like, I don't know. Something's not working there. And that's about as bad of a loss as we've seen in this league, 20-6. And you're playing a team that's on the second half of a doubleheader, like, played back-to-back games, and you're just going to get blown off the field. So Blaze is a leader that I admire as much or more than any others in this league. I mean, that guy is about it, and I know, Rowlett, and like, they're champions. That, like, the core, that defense is our champions. So I expect better going forward from the defense, but I just don't. Part of me feels like this just happens because you're just like, fuck, we cannot do shit on offense. We don't win faceoffs. Not that I don't know that that's even a good thing, but like, they just have some big holes and deficiencies everywhere except for close defense and goalie. Like, that, it's just matter of fact. It is what it is. That's the case. They're good on close D, they're good in the cage, and they're bad right now everywhere else. So they look like the team that will be the bottom dweller in the league. And it's crazy if I were starting a franchise from scratch to win a championship next season, I mean, Blaze and Sowers are the first two names that come to mind. So you've got an all-time great player. Maybe when he's done, he'll be the best pro goalie of all time. And you're losing games 20-6. It sucks. So I want better for them, but I don't really see any answers. It's not like there's all-star players out here. I had a crazy thought, like, who's the, do the Archers need to mix something up? Is Grant available? Like, if you're the Chaos, did the Chaos starting attack next week become Ross Scott, Grant Ament, and Matt Rambo? I don't know. But if I'm Spencer Ford, like, I'm calling anybody who will take my call to try to find, like, some proven commodities that can jumpstart their offense, because their offense is a fucking disaster right now. And then the Whipsnakes. So I think the story here about the Whipsnakes is they move it. So Matt Brandow has a great game in the first half of the doubleheader, and then they move Carroll down to attack, and he goes off. And he has looked like he's got that pop all season. And it feels like they may have found their attack unit here with Rob, Aiden Carroll, and TJ Malone. And those three, like wing guy, X, two righties and a lefty. TJ Malone is the guy. Like all of a sudden, Rob's like getting your third defenseman, maybe. Like, and he's still just so good at feeding the ball and he's making the right plays. Like, it's hard to say you should pull him out at this point. They seem to unlock some things there. They put Levi Anderson back in. He makes a ton of plays out of the midfield. Brandow still is, significantly more involved in contributing. Like I said, he had more points in this weekend than he had the entire season last season for the Water Dogs. So they're a team, and then championship pedigree on defense. Like they're a team, and then they've been in that figured out mode and they're winning just enough to make sure they're going to be, in contention for a playoff spot. They definitely make my list of like teams that could win it still. I mean, I think there's a lot of those teams. I mean, it's almost like every team but the but the Chaos at this point to me feel like, they're still in that locker room believing that they are championship contenders. But I think this definitely solidified the Whip Snakes. And then like when I look at teams with balance, so like the Cannons are the most balanced team in the league right now. I think they're like third in offensive efficiency and third in defensive efficiency. They're the most balanced, right? The Water Dogs are a little O heavy. I'm not really sure about the Atlas, but I think they're probably a little O heavy when it's all said and done, although Entenmann, so they kind of move into that Cannons category for me where it's like you've got game-changing players on both sides of the ball. I think the Archers, I just keep having to assume their offense is going to come around, and when they do, they look to be balanced to me. Those are the three I probably like the most coming out of this weekend, but shit, this is all week to week. I was all over the Water Dogs 2 weeks ago as being the best team in the league, and then they lose 2 straight, right? Like, so it's still anyone's game, but the Whip Snakes have the guys, and we've been saying it, if they can find the right mix, they're good on D. They clearly have the talent on O. So really impressive bounce back. Absolutely kill the Chaos. So let's look ahead. First off, woo, good job to me. I got through 52-minute episode by myself. I'm sure you're all sick of listening to me rant at this point. So I'll wrap it here. We're out to San Diego, the Outlaws and the Redwoods on Friday night, late night lacrosse on the East Coast, 9 p.m. Eastern and then 11:30 p.m. Eastern. So I ain't going to be up for that one. Utah Archers versus the New York Atlas. That sucks. 11:30 p.m. Eastern. Fuck. So we'll have to watch a replay of that one. And that's like the best game too. Like, oh, fuck. Archers Atlas at 11:30. We got to flex that one to 9. And then so that's Friday night, 9-11, Outlaws, Redwoods, Archers, Atlas, and then Saturday, Water Dogs, Redwoods, Cannons, Chaos. We'll learn a lot about the Redwoods. See the Redwoods go back to back. 2 tough games, Outlaws and Water Dogs, and then your Cannons are rolling and they get the Chaos. This is like, is this a trap moment? Your best team in the league against worst team in the league. I don't know. I don't know that I'd bet the Chaos money line, but with the spread, you got to think the Chaos are going to have some fight in them, and the Cannons are 3-1, and they're maybe a little comfortable. So it's one to watch, but they're the better team. I expect them to win that game. So listen, Hearts, you'll be back next week. I mentioned it. Like anybody who's lost a dog, I lost my pup Leo not long ago. It sucks. So if you listened over the head and you're a Kyle Hartzell fan, like send him some love. Via social media this week because I know he's not having fun. Harper, it's his pup's name. So prayers up to Harper. All dogs go to heaven. And thanks for bearing with me. We'll see you guys next week. Heartsy will be back, and we'll be talking about the games in San Diego. It'll be 4th of July week, so should be fun. Peace.